listen to Rhonda this morning and learn more about manufacturing trades and women who are trying to enter that sector. Just a few housekeeping rules. If you can keep your microphones on mute while Rhonda is speaking. And after her presentation, there will be a Q&A period, questions and answers. And please type in your questions in the chat room. Chat section. We will do our best to get to all the questions for her as well. But I also this morning have a great pleasure to introduce to everybody our keynote sponsor and supporter of this presentation. And the lovely man waving. Yes. So John Henderson is the founder and president of Henderson Total Maintenance. John will speak for a few minutes. But first, just a little bit about John himself. Since arriving in Kingston in 1986, John has enjoyed raising his family and living in what has been described as one of the best places to live in Canada, Kingston, Ontario. During that time, he has owned 2 businesses, including Henderson Total Maintenance Limited, celebrating about 3 decades of servicing Ontario. Early in his career, he was fortunate enough to have a mentor to help him balance a future vision and growth, and he fully realized how important it was to make the same decision to help out wherever and whenever possible and to pass it forward to help others. As a result of that philosophy, John has served 2 terms on the Greater Kingston Chamber of Commerce Board as a director and also sat as its president in 2009. John has also served as president of the Kingston Home Builders Association and currently works on various committees for multiple associations to this day in our awesome city of Kingston. Every year for the last 6 years, he has set aside time for participating as a mentor with the Kingston Economic Development Commission Summer Company Program, helping young entrepreneurs to succeed. John tells me he has no plans of retirement because, as he says, he's having way too much fun. And you know what? We're blessed for that. So I hope you do stay for a while, John. We're good. So just a few words, just a few minutes here. John is going to speak a little bit about Henderson and about his journey here. Thank you so much, John. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Josie. I appreciate the great introduction. Good morning to everybody. I hope everybody's washed behind their ears today, their hands, your face. Oops, sorry, wrong crowd. Let me start over. It's an honor to be here today as the sponsor of this wonderful event celebrating women in business. And I'd like to add a warm welcome to Rhonda this morning. I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say, especially with the conversation we had a little bit prior, being dumped into the fire, and I hope you come out shining and glowing. I'd like to talk to you this morning that as we move towards what everybody is calling the new normal and getting back into the workplace, as you know, some more openings are happening this week. We need to consider what we're being told by our government and industry officials on how to open up safely. Cleaning services used to be all about cleaning for looks, and that was the norm for decades. And however, right now you need to be thinking about cleaning for health. Instead, the added responsibility that goes with cleaning for health when you open up, it's going to be able to give you a margin of safety, a sense of realism and support for your employees and their families. Knowledge is power, especially when you're an employer and you need to put things together for your office, for your employees and the customers and clients that come to your location. Everyone is different. A restaurant opening versus a dental office are 2 completely different scenarios. And as the employer or owner of that business, you're going to need to think about how to do that. To do that, you'll want to work with a professional who is ready to guide you with information, processes, and solutions to your unique solution or your unique situation, because we're not all the same. Some locations are going to need a lot more, some are going to need a lot less. For example, if you're in a location that only has 3 people in it and you've been closed for 4 weeks, you're just going to need a dusting and a cleaning, maybe a disinfection to make everyone feel safe, and you're good to go. But if you're a restaurant and you have people sitting, or you're a dental office or a medical office where people are touching things with their hands and their bodies, it's going to need a much more complete process done. Scope of work, training, PPE use, chemicals and equipment uses, and why they're being used or why they're not being used should all be part of what you're asking that firm when they come in to help you open up. If you're not doing things properly, you won't have that level of peace of mind, and therefore you're going to be able to project that to people. Your employees are going to be wondering what's really going on. And if you do the job right, any of your customers, clients, or employees can come to you and say, what is it that you've done to make me feel safe to leave my home to come back and work for you, or to come in and spend my money here? I want to feel safe. And you can tell them what you've done. You can literally put it on a sheet of paper and hand it to your clients. We do this, we use PPE, we've had the location professionally cleaned, we have policies in place as a result of that to do and follow up on a weekly basis to keep you protected. The industry that I started in 30 years ago, it's changed and it's going to keep changing. There's going to be changes coming down over the course of the next year. I firmly believe that if you're a janitorial service or a building service contractor, you're going to need to get some certification of some shape and form. We've stepped in front of that curve back in October of last year and began certifying in things like the Global Bioadvisory Council that gives us specific training to working clean against the COVID. We're working on training the trainers so we can train our staff properly once again and recertify in an industry recognized standard. The industry used to be different. We'd clean for looks. People come out every night, they clean, they make it look. I know that I stand proud with them and know that what we do is to make you feel comfortable and safe when you show up for work in the morning. Due diligence is something like will become the largest thing in your life right now, just like washing your hands every day and every time, 30 or 40 or 50 times a day. My hope is that through this entire scenario, we're able to walk away knowing that through working together, we can bring a safe, proper solution to anything that we're facing now or that's coming down the pipe. Diligence, be diligent, and be safe. And thank you very much for having me this morning. I look forward to hearing what Rhonda has to say.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Gabby, my dear.
Yes, I'm ready. Let me just okay. All right. It gives us great pleasure to introduce Rhonda Barnet, President and COO of the Avit Manufacturing, formerly Steelworks Design, an engineering and custom automation firm based in Peterborough, Ontario. Welcome, Rhonda. Rhonda is an ardent supporter of the Canadian Manufacturing and Exporting Association. She was the first female chair in the history of the association and served from 2016 to 2018. She currently serves CME in the role of past chair and the chair of the Workforce of the Future. She maintains an active schedule of government and industry engagements, including functions in Germany, Holland, Italy, China, Mexico, United States, and Canada. Wow, lots of air miles, I hope. With a news release on June 2nd, the Government of Canada recognized that a smooth economic recovery would be required, excuse me, and continued collaboration between public and private sectors in the wake of direct effects, changes, and adaptations due to COVID-19. A high-caliber panel of business leaders was established to share their direct perspectives on the scope of the challenges that Canadian industries face. Rhonda Barnet is one of to serve on that council over the next 90 days. Congratulations to you, Rhonda, and the other 8 members of this very important council that you will be engaged with. We're honored. In 2016, Rhonda launched CME's Women in Manufacturing Working Group, convened to elevate the participation and roles of women in Canadian manufacturing. In 2018, Rhonda launched CME's We Can Do It campaign, an initiative funded in part by the federal government to add 100,000 women in the manufacturing workforce over the next 5 years. Wow. Rhonda is an international spokeswoman on diversity, women in manufacturing, skills, and the future workforce. She believes in the value of mentorship and upholds the philosophy, if you can see me, you can be me. please extend a warm online welcome to Rhonda. The floor is yours, Rhonda. Thank you.
Thanks, Gabby and John and Josie, for the opportunity and for the warm welcome. Can everybody hear me satisfactorily?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, women in manufacturing. It's, if we talked a couple of months ago, I'd have some really great news to share, and I want to still share that. But right now, we're just, finishing our thoughts on the health crisis and looking to the economic crisis. And what we're realizing around our country and around the world is that women have been had a greater impact in this recession than men, and economists around the world are talking about this period as the she-cession. So I'm going to touch on that, and that we're going to have to double down to really make a difference. So Gabby highlighted some of the work I've done around the world, and I see on the line here is Alma Farias. And Alma, we were last together in Mexico presenting the work that we're doing here in Canada around women in manufacturing. And that was such a wonderful experience because Mexico really wanted to find out how they could access our tools, how we could support them. And I think there's a real role, when we get this right, to share this with developing countries. And as a side note from that, I was in September at the World Manufacturing speaking about women in manufacturing in Italy, and that was a completely different experience. It was a very macho society, and the entire conference around the world was talking about this skill shortage that we were experiencing across the world in manufacturing. And very few countries are talking about engaging women. So I think Canada is a leader. We've made tremendous success prior to COVID, and we need to double down and rebuild that success and continue from there. So I'm going to take you kind of through the work that I've been doing in the past 4 years at a very high level. And I'm going to then point you to some tools where you can go and access a lot of these programs. Everything's free. We have a website, womeninmanufacturing.ca, where you can access all of the free tools that I'm going to talk about. We have a few hashtags, hashtag women in manufacturing, hashtag we can do it. That's a big campaign that I'm leading. We can do it. We can add 100,000 women to the sector. And hashtag next gen Rosie. Those are sort of 3 hashtags if you're on social. So I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint here. Give me a second, and can you all see my screen? Okay. So today we're talking about the critical role women in manufacturing is going to play in the future success of our economy. So here's a snapshot in 2017, and this snapshot really didn't change through to 2019, just to give you an idea of what manufacturing represents in our country. So manufacturing, $652 billion of output. We're about 11%, we run around 11% of GDP and 11% of employment. Just over 1.7 million people are employed directly in manufacturing. And sadly, in 2017, it was only 28% of women were working in the sector. We pay better than average, and we have the opportunity to close the wage gap as we engage more women in the sector. So pre-COVID, the biggest thing I was talking about was labor shortage. And again, this was a global problem in our sector. That this study was done back in 2017, and we redid this just in October 2019, and the results actually got a little worse. We were looking at already 75% of manufacturers were saying, we have skilled labor shortages, and women do not represent enough of that labor force, and they're an untapped talent pool that we want to pursue. So that's pre-COVID. And then when you break that down, where were those shortages? Primarily skilled production, the general labor, and very scientific, technical jobs is really where the greatest shortages were being seen in Canada. So a lot of the work that I've been doing is to really move the dial and make a difference. So, women are 52% of the population. 8.6 million women pre-recession were working in Canada, and we're 48% of the workforce. So, even though we're 52% of the population, we're still 48% of the workforce. So that's a big increase over historical levels, pre-war. So, but only 28% of the manufacturing labor force. And that figure has been stagnant for 30 years. So when I came on to CME as the first female chair in history, and CME, for those of you that don't know, it is Canada's oldest, largest trade association. It founded things like the CNE, if you can believe it. It's been around for now 149 years. And I was the first female to lead the organization. I had full support. The organization wanted to modernize, and it has. So I wasn't doing this alone. I was standing on the shoulders of the men and women around me to do this work. And it's important to recognize that when we're talking about women in manufacturing, this isn't just a women's movement, especially given the statistics that we're so grossly underrepresented, that men are a big factor in the change that needs to take place. So historically, we're running at 28% for 30 years. We started a campaign, I'm going to get into that in a moment, called We Can Do It, and it has a lot of programming in behind it, but we wanted to add 100,000 net new jobs for women in our sector across the country in 5 years. And amazingly, in 1.5 years, we added 40,000 net new jobs for women in the sector. And I think we should take some credit for that in the work that we're doing. We have a government that's really promoting the value of women in the workplace. The whole world's looking at this value, and we have some great programs running here in the country. So in February, I went to Stats Canada on the weekend. In February, we had rose in the total labor pool in manufacturing to 29.5%. And that's a really interesting thing, because what we know statistically is if we can move the dial over 30%, things really start to rebalance themselves. We don't have to work as hard at it. We have systems in place. We have enough momentum, and we were just so close. We were on the doorstep to 30%. And then COVID happened, and schools shuttered, and daycare shuttered. And guess what? Women were more disadvantaged in needing to leave their job to take care of their kids, to take care of their seniors, to take care of all these people once again. And that's why we're now calling, a lot of people are calling this period the She Session. So now, mid-May, the representation of women in the sector in Canada has dropped to 26.9%. So now we're below historical levels on a representation basis. So we got our work cut out for us. So let's just look at women in leadership. This is a seminar for women mean business. So this is something I pulled from McKinsey about a year ago, and looking at just generally across all sectors, where do we see women in leadership? What's the fair representation? And it's low across most of the world, except getting into Eastern European countries where things are just run a little differently. So this is a world problem, and it's not just a manufacturing problem. And we have to get people into the ranks of our industries if we want them to be future leaders. So that's kind of the premise of a lot of my work. And I'm preaching to the choir here, but diversity breeds innovation, productivity, profitability. It's hard work at first. This graph demonstrates it's a little harder to bring together diverse views, diverse opinions, diverse thoughts. But when we do it and we do it right, we have an advantage. So Canada knows that. We in this seminar know that, and that's what we want to build in our sector. So as I mentioned, STEM, and we're talking about trades and technology here today. And when I talk about STEM, I always include the trades in every presentation I make. So that T for me is technology and trades. And women are grossly underrepresented in our country, in most countries. and we need to do something about it. So if we want to fill the pipeline down the road with more technical women in manufacturing, we need to start really young, and we need a lot of our work to focus on broadening the minds of young girls and women so that they can see their way to successful careers in any trades and technology field like construction, like manufacturing, etc. So again, the stats, we're 48% of the workforce. This is pre-COVID. Less than 20% of the jobs in STEM, even though we're 25% of the graduates of STEM, we're less than 20% of the jobs in STEM. Only 5%, it's actually about 4.5% of women in trades in Canada, so grossly underrepresented. And yet women represent 60% of post-secondary Canadian graduates. So we're educating our young girls, but we're not doing enough to create the linkages to these really interesting trade and technology sectors. So that's where I spend a lot of my time. And the big thing that I keep putting in front of these young girls is jobs in these fields are well-paying jobs, they're above average paying jobs, and they're near to parity in gender pay gap. And especially at the front end of it, when you look at young people starting their career, there's little to no pay gap. And where we start to see the pay gap is when women leave the workforce. And so we need to do some work there. So, what are we doing in Canada to make a difference? That's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about today, just at a high level. So CME, under my leadership, we went out across the country. We did a survey in 2016, and there's a full report you can get on the website. But we saw what the problem was. We saw where the biggest issues were. We listened to women in the sector. We listened to men in the sector. And we built programs around three major pillars. So we're going to engage and inspire, and that's mostly our young people. And we're going to attract and retain. So when we get them there, we have to make sure that we have systems in place that they're not going to just have a bad experience and leave. And then we need to really support them, empower them, and accelerate their success. So we need to have mentors and sponsors who believe in these women and help them advance in companies. So that's the three pillars of work. We have developed 5 strategic imperatives around this work, where we then build out our programming. So what are our activities to date? This was, again, all pre-COVID. And in fact, we just ran our last Women in Manufacturing seminar on March 6th, just before the economy shut down. It was a sold out event, a very exciting event. It was our third annual Women Success Forum. So through late 2016 to now, we've done a lot of work, and it's all free to everybody on the line here. And it's really, it has a manufacturing lens to it, but what it has is this work has a lens for male-dominated industry and making a difference around diversity and inclusion. So it could be adopted by the construction industry and the, various other industries where women are grossly underrepresented. So we have this on womeninmanufacturing.ca. You can pull up our free diversity toolkit. And today I was going to run through some of that, but I elected not to due to time, and that could be a follow-up. But you can go and look through that. And a really big important piece in there is male leadership handbook, so that when we have more men than women in leadership, men want to play an important role, and they need to know how to do it. And so we've created a guideline. It's very simple. It's just a few pages to give you some really good fundamental tools of how you can make a difference in your community, in your workplace, to attract and retain and empower more women in the sector. We have a membership guide in general, that's free as well. A big thing that we're doing around the country, and we'd love to come out to Eastern Ontario and do this. We have funding from the federal government, is hosting open doors. We wanted to bring young women into our factories and show them what modern manufacturing looks like, so that they're not just shutting their minds to that. We need to show them that these factories are modern and innovative and exciting, and they there's great women working in these factories. Now with COVID, we're looking at moving some of this virtually. In the fall, we're actively working on that, and that makes it accessible across the country to everyone. But we have 5 programs that are funded through the government where we want to run in-place open doors tours, and we'd love to reach out to your community on this. And then Inspire events. So that's something we've just been gearing up. We've had them in Alberta and Ontario and Quebec, where we have women like myself in leadership getting up and inspiring leaders in the sector and young people about careers in the sector. So again, this is going to be temporarily virtual. We've got to keep doing these things. We've created a national working group to drive women in manufacturing. We now have provincial sectors as well, networking sectors, and we're about to launch women in manufacturing executive councils across the country as well, where women can come together and network and work together with men as well to really advance women in their own companies, in their own regions. The scholarship campaign, we have, I believe we've given 2 rounds of scholarships. They will be coming out again this fall. I'll send you the link shortly. It will be coming out later this month. And we look at young girls that are currently in academic studies related to trades, technology, and manufacturing careers. And we give out, I think they're $4,000 scholarships to 4 women, and we bring them to a conference. It's a great program. And then our We Can Do It campaign. That's the biggest thing that is bringing awareness to the work that we do. And again, we made this bold ambition to add 100,000 women to the sector in 5 years. And we did 40,000 of that in a year and a half. So we're pretty excited, but now we've lost 104,000 women overnight in our sector. So we have to double down and really make a difference. But what we're looking for today from everyone on this call is to be a champion. You know, take that pledge, we can do it. If you go onto our website, womeninmanufacturing.ca, you can just simply take the pledge, and all it means is diversity matters to me, to my company, and we want to see tens of thousands of individuals around the country take this pledge and say, you know what, diversity matters in manufacturing, and I stand up for that. You know, and the work that I'm now doing with the federal government, I brought this up yesterday to Minister Baines about, you know, the realities around women were more disadvantaged. And we know that when we engage the whole population as a country, the country prospers, families prosper, companies prosper. So we need to double down right now in this crisis, and we need to really engage women more than ever so that we can rebuild our success and that this country can prosper again, that families prosper, and we're rebuilding our economy. So again, we can do it. I want everybody on the call to take that pledge, to be involved in this campaign. There is absolutely no cost. It's really important that we keep getting this message out, and we get young people and even mid-career people that want to pivot right now, that manufacturing is a good choice. And as was mentioned at the beginning, my mantra is, if you can see me, you can be me. And I take that to heart. I'm a very busy person, but I like to take opportunities whenever possible, like today, to make sure I am visible in communities, that people do see me as a person and the work that I'm doing, and that all of you can take up that pledge, and that you can help people in your communities, in your workplace, to succeed. We need more people as mentors and role models and sponsors in our communities to advance women in the workplace. So I would like to thank you for your time. There's a lot behind this that you can access around the toolkits, around the programs on womeninmanufacturing.ca, and I'd be pleased to take any of your questions. I'm going to now stop the share. There we go. Thank you.
That was fantastic.
That was awesome. I'm just going to go to chat here and have a look at some of our questions. One person, if you can see me, you can be me, yay, from Kelly. Okay, from Melissa, is there a partnership relationship with the Women in Trades movement and programming offered in the post-secondary schools?
So the CME Women in Manufacturing is open to all partnerships, and we've partnered with many or most colleges across the country and universities on the campaign. And we partner with things like Let's Talk Science, Canada Skills. So, you know, we really look at the youth side of things to really make sure we're there when young people are considering or being exposed to careers in skilled trades. So this year, the Ontario Skills, Canada Skills campaign conference didn't get to go on in person, but it happened virtually, and we actually ran the Women in Trades or Young Girls in Trades conference, and that was really exciting. So we're there. We want to be in more places. So if your organizations want partnerships with us, they don't cost anything. It's just always reciprocal, and we're open to all of that.
Thank you, Rhonda. We have a few more questions. What do you attribute the difference between Russia and the rest of the world?
Yeah, it's a good question. Now that was women in leadership, but so it wasn't specifically manufacturing. But when we do look at manufacturing and we look at Eastern European countries, there's a greater representation of women in manufacturing. And I think, you know, it's a different lifestyle, and it's been out of necessity that, you know, we saw kind of Second World War, a lot of women in Canada, you know, and the US went into manufacturing, but then we left those jobs for men when the men came back from the war. And, you know, in Eastern European countries, that didn't happen. And I think out of necessity, you know, they kept promoting that because families needed those jobs. And, you know, I think in Canada, families need those jobs. And obviously, this recession has showed us that the daycare challenges are the biggest challenges that women face, and elder care as well. And that's been exacerbated right now. So we need to find solutions for that so that we can increase our own representation.
Hey, there's another one here. I'm a grade 7 and 8 guidance teacher and work with high school guidance teachers. What do you think needs to be done differently at our elementary, secondary school to make the difference at a young age?
That's a great question. So we actually need to shine a light back on secondary school trades programs. I think a lot of schools abandon them. Some of them haven't, and some are bringing them back. It's really important to have these life skills, to have these career skills. We need to bring that back. In Peterborough, we just ran a campaign, and again, that's free for you to look at. I think it's on Peterborough Economic Development website. They ran an open doors with guidance counselors. So we brought every guidance counselor in both school boards across the county through the sector so they could open their eyes to what modern day manufacturing looks like. And they were shocked. And they got to talk to young people in our factories and how excited they were about their jobs. So, you know, not only do we need to influence the young people, but we need to influence the influencers. So it's really important that we get the message out, that we get these influencers thinking about our sector and thinking about the modernization of our sector. People have such old views of what our sector looks like.
Yes, I agree. Another question here is, do you have any reps here in Kingston area championing this platform that you're speaking about today? Work with one of your yahoos.
Yeah, and certainly Peng Feng Chow is a good friend of mine. So she, you know, from Transformix. Yeah, we do have members out there, and actually the leader of Women in Manufacturing for the country from a staff perspective is Marie Morden, and she's from Belleville. So there's very strong connection to your community, to Eastern Ontario, that we can certainly make that introduction.
There's a question here from Catherine Bell. Can you speak more about the Women's Success Forum? Who attends, age, purpose, etc.?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's evolving all the time. So right now, what we've seen is it's primarily been C-suite individuals and a lot of the HR people We're trying, the last year we brought out a lot of people from the plant floor. So we had CEOs come out and bring women from the plant floor so they could see the important work that's being done. We took the first step of really making sure that leaders understood the tools and the program. But now we really need to filter that down and get to the real women that are working in the sector. And, there's 480,000 of them, so that's a lot of women to touch, but that's kind of the next piece of work, and we're already sort of touching on that when we're going across the country. But the Women's Success Forum is really we're really trying to get leaders to engage with the women on their floor, bring them in, and the men. We've brought lots of men in as well. Men are part of the solution. They need to see the tools that are available. They need to see and hear how to be mentors and sponsors and role models. And I hope you know the difference between a mentor and a sponsor. And sponsorship is so important in the sector that when we bring women in, and men are going to be great advocates to be sponsors, to really make sure when there's advancement in a company that women are considered for that advancement. They may not have that profile that you normally see for that advancement, but they need to be evaluated the same way for the advancement. Bring them into the equation.
Thank you, Rhonda. And here's a statement from Stephen from the St. Lawrence College. I think everyone would be encouraged to know that women are the clear and recognized leaders in our manufacturing construction program at St. Lawrence College. Stephen is the Associate Dean of Skilled Trades. He's with us this morning.
Yeah, for sure. And I know we have Maxine Mann on the line, who was the Dean of Skilled Trades at Fleming. And, when women do enter these programs, they're some of the smartest, brightest lights in the class. They do extremely well, and yes, there are barriers when they hit the workforce. There are still, but they are becoming fewer and fewer. And, by and large, women are successful when they get there. So we need to get those young, relevant women that actually make that bridge to those jobs to be influencing more people to enter those programs, not 51-year-olds like me. So that's really the work that I'm trying to do, have more 20-year-olds that are there doing it, influencing that next generation.
So inspiring, but it is inspiring all that you're embracing, Rhonda. It's wonderful. And, someone made a comment, and it's so true. I also believe it starts in your own home with your children as parents, to plant new seeds of thought of your future. It's not what it was 30, 40 years ago. It's now. And there's such a great opportunity for women.
And I catch myself, like the gender lens that we apply, or we have applied to our children. My children are in their mid-20s now, but I know I have 2 daughters, and when they were babies, everything was pink and Barbie and all of that stuff. And not that that's wrong, but it needs to be augmented. They need to see the full spectrum of the things they can play with, the things they can interact with. And certainly when they were pursuing their careers, they were influenced in every direction. But, I've made my mistakes along the way, but, we know better now. And I see young families now are really moving away from genderized play and genderized toys and things like that. We have to be really careful.
I agree with you, Rhonda. And I think that's all the questions we have. And first of all, thank you so much again for your time, the inspiring words. We are extremely grateful, and we're so extremely grateful that you've spoken to our group here in Eastern Ontario. And we've had a lot of guests actually throughout Ontario for your presentation today. So we thank you for that. And once again, congratulations on your role. I think we're just thrilled about that. And I know you'll be, with the entire other team there, will make great differences for this country. It's a great country, and we're proud of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Josie, I think you have a few announcements to make.
I do. And Rhonda, we're very proud of you too.
Yes.
And what you're doing. Honestly, we're thrilled and honored to have you here as our guest this morning and talk. So we're very excited to share your message to all of our network. As I said before, this is recorded, so it'll be promoted ongoing on our YouTube channel, and also throughout all our channels as well. So, and we'll probably be in touch with you later on to see how else we can help, and maybe take the pledge as well.
Oh, I appreciate it. And Rhonda, very good speech this morning. I loved hearing about it. I think I'll be in touch and see if we can't get the home builders and the Kingston Construction Association here in Kingston to maybe do some championing work for you.
Wonderful.
And our thank you to John as well for being with us this morning and his support for us here in Kingston and Eastern Ontario. So both of you, thank you. We're very grateful. And I think, Josie, you have one more announcement to make because we have another
I just want to let everybody know that next Tuesday, June 16th, same time, 10:30 a.m., we will have a wonderful impassioned speaker. Her name is Nicole De Clare. She's going to talk about her journey in the past 20 years and in the trades as a welder. So Nicole is a welding engineering technologist, welder, fitter, and red seal welder. 2 years ago, Nicole also founded the Nicole De Clare Welding Bursary Award and has since gotten some industry backing for this as well. So she issues 4 $2,000 bursaries, and she has in 2020. So to listen to her next week, which I hope you will join us, just go to our website, www.womenmeanbusiness.ca under events, and you can just register there. It's free, of course, and you will get the Zoom link the day before. So please, and you also, if you can, subscribe to our newsletter. It's free. It's called Connect and Flourish. It comes out every 2 weeks. Basically, it'll give you the information of what's coming up, not only with Women Mean Business, but other community events that could help women advance in their careers and in their businesses as well. And again, just go to our website, www.womenmeanbusiness.ca, and you can subscribe there for free. So thank you, my dear.
And
Gabby?
we thank everyone for being online with us this morning again, and many new guests. We are so grateful for joining us this morning. You join us again. And once again, our salute to women in trades and manufacturing for June of 2020. Thank you so much, Rhonda. Thank you so much, John. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.